William Elliott Griffith's Korean fairy tales. Today we will be reading the chapters called The East Light and the Bridge of Fishes and Prince Sandalwood, the Father of Korea. So now let's find a comfy place, close your eyes, and enjoy the stories. East Light and the Bridge of Fishes. Long, long ago, in the region beyond the everlasting White Mountains of northern Korea, there lived a king who was waited on by a handsome young woman servant. Every day she gladdened her eyes by looking southward, where the lofty mountain peak, which holds the dragon's pool in its bosom, lifts its white head to the sky. When tired out with daily toil, she thought of the river that flows from the dragon's pool down out of the mountain. She hoped that sometime she would have a son that would rule over the country which the river watered so richly. One day, while watching the mountain top, she saw coming from the east a tiny bit of shining vapor. Floating like a white cloud in the blue sky, it seemed no bigger than an egg. It came nearer and nearer until it seemed to go into the bosom of her dress. Very soon, she became the mother of a boy. It was indeed a most beautiful child. But the jealous king was angry. He did not like the little stranger. So he took the baby and threw it down among the pigs in the pen, thinking that this would be the last of the boy. But no, the sows breathed into the baby's nostrils, and their warm breath made it live. When the king's servants heard the little fellow crowing, they went out to see what made the noise, and there they beheld a happy baby, not seeming to mind its odd cradle at all. They wanted to give him food at once, but the angry king ordered the child to be thrown away, and this time into the stable. So the servants took the boy by the legs and laid him among the horses, expecting that the animals would tread on him, and he would be thus put out of the way. But no, the mares were gentle, and with their warm breath, they not only kept the little fellow from getting cold, but they nourished him with their milk so that he grew fat and hearty. When the king heard of this wonderful behavior of pigs and horses, he bowed his head toward heaven. It seemed the will of the Great One in the sky that the boy baby should live and grow up to be a man. So he listened to his mother's prayers and allowed her to bring the child into the palace. There he grew up and was trained like one of the king's sons. As a sturdy youth, he practiced shooting with bow and arrows and became skillful in riding horses. He was always kind to animals. In the king's dominions, any man who was cruel to a horse was punished. Whoever struck a mare so that the animal died was himself put to death. The young man was always merciful to his beasts. So the king named the youthful archer and horseman East Light, or Radiance of the Morning, and made him master of the royal stables. East Light, as the people liked to say his name, became very popular. They also called him Child of the Sun and grandson of the Yellow River. One day, while out on the mountains hunting deer, bears, and tigers, the king called upon the young archer to show his prowess in shooting arrows. Eastlight drew his bow and showed skill such as no one else could equal. He sent shaft after shaft whistling into the target and brought down both running deer and flying birds. Then all applauded the handsome youth. But instead of the king's commending Eastlight, the king became very jealous of him, fearing that he might want to seize the throne. Nothing that the young man could do seemed now to please his royal master. Fearing he might lose his life if he remained near the king, Eastlight, with 3 trusty followers, fled southward until he came to a great deep river, wide and impassable. How to get across he knew not, for no boat was at hand, and the time was too short to make a raft, for behind him were his enemies swiftly pursuing. In a great strait he cried out, "Alas, shall I, the child of the sun and the grandson of the Yellow River, be stopped here powerless by this stream?" Then, as if his father, the sun, had whispered to him what to do, he drew his bow and shot many arrows here and there into the water, nearly emptying his quiver. For a few moments, nothing happened. To his companions, it seemed the waste of good weapons. What would their leader have left to fight his pursuers when they appeared, if his quiver were empty? But in a moment more, the waters appeared to be strangely agitated. Soon they were flecked and foaming from up and down the stream, and in front of them the fish were swimming toward Eastlight, poking their noses out of the water as if they would say, "Get on our backs and we'll save you." They crowded together in so dense a mass that on their spines a bridge was soon formed, on which men could stand. "Quick!" shouted Eastlight to his companions. "Let us flee. Behold, the king's horsemen coming down the hill after us." So over the bridge of fishbacks, scaly and full of spiny fins, the 4 young men fled. As soon as they gained the opposite shore, the bridge of fishes dissolved. Yet scarcely had they swum away, when those who were in pursuit had gained the water's edge on the other side. In vain the king's soldiers shot their arrows to kill Eastlight and his 3 companions. The shafts fell short, and the river was too deep and wide to swim their horses over, so the 4 young men escaped safely. Marching on farther a few miles, Eastlight met 3 strange persons who seemed to be awaiting his coming. They welcomed him warmly and invited him to be their king and rule over their city. The first was dressed in seaweed, the second in hempen garments, and the third in embroidered robes. These men represented the 3 classes of society. First, fishermen and hunters. Second, farmers and artisans. And lastly, rulers of the tribes. So in this land named Fuyu, rich in the 5 grains, wheat, rice, and millet, bean, and sugarcane, the new king was joyfully welcomed by his new subjects. The men were tall, brave, and courteous. Besides being good archers, they rode horses skillfully. They ate out of bowls with chopsticks and used round dishes at their feasts. They wore ornaments of large pearls and jewels of red jade cut and polished. The Fuyu people gave the fairest virgin in their realm to be the bride of the king East Light, and she became a gracious queen, greatly beloved of her subjects, and many children were born to them. East Light ruled long and happily. Under his reign, the people of Fuyu became civilized and highly prosperous. He taught the proper relations of ruler and ruled the laws of marriage. Besides better methods of cooking and house building, he also showed them how to dress their hair. He introduced the wearing of the top knot. For thousands of years, top knots were the fashion in Fuyu and in Korea. Hundreds of years later, after East Light died, and all the tribes and states in the peninsula south of the everlasting White Mountains wanted to become one nation and one kingdom, they called their country after East Light, but in a more poetic form, Chosun, which means morning radiance, or the land of the morning calm. Prince Sandalwood, the father of Korea. 4 little folks lived in the home of Mr. Kim, 2 girls and 2 boys. Their names were Peach Blossom and Pearl, 8-fold strength, and Dragon. Dragon was the oldest, a boy. Grandma Kim was very fond of telling them stories about the heroes and fairies of their beautiful country. One evening, when Papa Kim came home from his office in the government buildings, he carried 2 little books in his hand, which he handed over to Grandma. One was a little almanac, looking in its bright cover of red, green, and blue, as gay as the piles of cakes and confectionery made when people get married. For everyone knows how rich in colors are pastry and sweets for the bride's friends at a Korean wedding party. The second little book contained the direction sent out by the Royal Minister of Ceremonies for the celebration of the festival in honor of the ancestor prince, Old Sandalwood, the father of Korea. Twice a year in Pyongyang City, they made offerings of meat and other food in his honor, but always uncooked. Who was Old Sandalwood? Asked Peach Blossom, the older of the 2 little girls. What did he do? Asked Yonggi, Dragon, the older boy. Let me tell you, said Grandma, as they huddled together round on her oiled paper carpet over the main flue at the end of the room where it was the warmest. For it was early in December and the wind was roaring outside. Now, I shall tell you also why the bear is good and the tiger bad, said Grandma. Well, to begin, long, long ago, before there were any refined people in the land of dawn, and no men but rude savages, a bear and a tiger met together. It was on the southern slope of Old Whitehead Mountain in the forest. These wild animals were not satisfied with the kind of human beings already on the earth, and they wanted better ones. They thought that if they could become human, they would be able to improve upon the quality. So these patriotic beasts, the bear and the tiger, agreed to go before Hananim, the Great One of heaven and earth, and ask him to change at once their form and nature, or at least tell them how it could be done. But where to find him? That was the question. So they put their heads down in token of politeness, stretched out their paws, and waited a long while, hoping to get light on the subject. Then a voice spoke out saying, "Eat a bunch of garlic and stay in a cave for 21 days. If you do, you will become human." So into the dark cave they crawled, chewed their garlic, and went to sleep. It was cold and gloomy in the cave with nothing to hunt or eat. The tiger got very tired. Day after day, he moped, snarled, growled, and behaved rudely to his companion. But the bear bore the tiger's insults. Finally, on the 11th day, the tiger, seeing no signs of losing his stripes or of shedding his hair, claws, or tail, and with no prospect of fingers or toes in view, concluded to give up, trying to become a man. He bounded out of the cave and at once went hunting in the woods, going back to his old life. But the bear, patiently sucking her paw, waited till the 21 days had passed. Then her hairy hide and claws dropped off like an overcoat. Her nose and ears suddenly shortened, and she stood upright, a perfect woman. Walking out of the cave, the new creature sat beside a brook, and in the pure water beheld how lovely she was. There she waited to see what would take place next. About this time, while these things were going on down in the world, matters of interest were happening in the skies. Hwanung, the son of the Great One in the heavens, asked his father to give him an earthly kingdom to rule over. Pleased with his request, the Lord of Heaven decided to present his son with the land of the dragon's back, which men called Korea. Now, as everybody knows, this country of ours, the everlasting great land of the day spring, rose up on the first morning of creation out of the sea in the form of a dragon. His spine, loins, and tail form the great range of mountains that make the backbone of our beautiful country, while his head rises skyward in the eternal white mountain in the north. On its summit, amid the snow and ice, lies the blue lake of pure water, from which flow out our boundary rivers. "What is the name of this lake?" asked Yongi the boy. "The Dragon's Pool," said Grandma Kim. And during one whole night, ever so long ago, the dragon breathed hard and long until its breath filled the heavens with clouds. This was the way that the Great One in the skies prepared the way for his son's coming to earth. People thought there was an earthquake, but when they woke up in the morning and looked up to the grand mountain, so gloriously white, they saw the cloud rising far up in the sky. As the bright sun shone upon it, the cloud turned into pink, red, yellow, and the whole eastern sky looked so lovely that our country then received its name, the Land of Morning Radiance. Down out of his cloud of many colors and borne on the wind, Hwanung, the heavenly prince, descended first to the mountain top and then to the lower earth. When he entered the great forest, he found a beautiful woman sitting by the brookside. It was the bear that had been transformed into lovely human shape and nature. The heavenly prince was delighted. He chose her as his bride, and by the by, a little baby was born. The mother made for her son a cradle of soft moss and reared her child in the forest. Now the people who dwelt at the foot of the mountain were in those days very rude and simple. They wore no hats, had no white clothes, lived in huts, and did not know how to warm their houses with flues running under the floors, nor had they any books or writings. Their sacred place was under a sandalwood tree on a small mountain named Taba in Pyongyang province. They had seen the cloud rising from the dragon's pool, so rich in colors, and as they looked, they saw it move southward and nearer to them until it stood over the sacred sandalwood tree, when out stepped a white-robed being, and descending through the air, alighted in the forest and on the tree. Oh, how beautiful this spirit looked against the blue sky, yet the tree was far away, and long was the journey to it. "Let us all go to the sacred tree," said the leader of the people. So together they hied over hill and valley until they reached the holy ground and ranged themselves in circles about it. A lovely sight greeted their eyes. There sat under a tree a youth of grand appearance, arrayed in princely dress. Though young-looking and rosy in face, his countenance was august and majestic. Despite his youth, he was wise and venerable. "I have come from my ancestors in heaven to rule over you, my children," he said, looking at them most kindly. At once, the people fell on their knees and all bent reverently, shouting, "Thou art our king, we acknowledge thee, and will loyally obey only thee." Seeing that they wanted to know what he could tell them, he began to instruct them, even before he gave them laws and rules and taught them how to improve their houses. He told them stories. The first one explained to them why it was that the bear is good and the tiger bad. The people wondered at his wisdom, and henceforth the tiger was hated, while people began to like the bear more and more. "What name shall we give our king so that we may properly address him?" asked the people of their elders. "It is right that we should call him after the place in which we saw him, under our holy tree. Let his title, therefore, be the august and venerable Sandalwood." So they saluted him thus, and he accepted the honor. Seeing that the people were rough and unkempt, Prince Sandalwood showed them how to tie up and dress their hair. He ordained that men should wear their long locks in the form of a topknot. Boys must braid their hair and let it hang down over their backs. No boy could be called a man unless he married a wife. Then he can twist his hair into a knot, put on a hat, have a headdress like an adult, and wear a long white coat. As for the women, they must plait their tresses and wear them plainly at their neck, except at marriage or on great occasions of ceremony. Then they might pile up their hair like a pagoda and use long hairpins, jewels, silk, and flowers. Thus our Korean civilization was begun, and to this day, the law of the hat and hair distinguishes us above all people, said Grandma. We still honor the august and venerable Prince Sandalwood. Now, good night, my darlings.